Okay, now that we've created all the basics in game programming, what we're going to do is we're going to put together a game using sound and collision detections and points. And this game is Chapter 8 in Beginning Flash Game Programming for Dummies by author Andy Harris. And what I'm going to be doing, of course, is transferring it from ActionScript 2.0 to ActionScript 3.0 using basic game properties. The first thing we need to do is we've already learned how to control an object using keyboard events, moving it around. And what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be learning how to create a sound. So first thing we need to do is I'm gonna lower this action script here, and we need to create a button. So I created a button, and we should already know how to do this. And I've created this button and named it lowercase btn, uppercase C for crash. All right, so button crash. So I created a simple button. I didn't do anything up, down, over. I didn't have to do any of those things. I just took a box and I created a box, and then I converted this box into a button, right clicking it, or I can go into modify, convert to a symbol, and then I wanted it to be a button, so I turned it into a button, and you give it a center point registry, and then I just named it lowercase btn, and it was uppercase crash. So it's our crash button. That's what I named it. If I made a second button, I would call it crash 2. So why don't I do that? And I'll export this, or actually, let's just call this our crash button 2. And so I go and export that as ActionScript linkage. I'm going to create a linkage in ActionScript, and what that does is that takes this. This is just good practice. We'll be doing that in a second when we bring in our sound audio clip. So I have a crash button 2, and I hit OK. All right, hit OK, and now I got my second button. So I have a button, and like I said, I'm going to call this btn crash 2. And what I have to do now is I have to bring in a sound clip. So I'm going to import to the library. And this is going to take a second. And ooh, those are in my sounds. But what I have is I have in my documents, I have everything for this monster game. And we'll put the wave, right? It's a wave sound item, and I named it alarm, car alarm. So I'm going to click on that, and I should look in my folder, and you'll see that I have alarm wave, right? And here it is. So I can push play. I can push stop, and then I have the crash one that was already imported in the same way. Alright, so that one's a real quick one. The other one's a little bit longer. And I just want this to be named alarm. So I just click on this, and this allows me to edit that. And when I come over here for my ActionScript linkage, I want to use this and have it taken from my library and put onto the sound button, so it's going to be played when something happens. So that's all you really need to know. You need to create a button for this tutorial, for this demo, and you need to import a WAV file, and you can find these WAV files on Andy Harris's website, which is you can find from the linkage, but it's at Purdue of Indianapolis website under his game programming section, and there'll be a link to this given like it is on the other videos that you can just click on and go right to his class course website and find all these resources. You can find the sound wave files, you can find the images, the dragons, the cars, everything we're using for this game you can find on his website by going to it and downloading his Flash programming files, and you can use those if you want to take a shortcut. Or you can Google sound wave files and just pick any sound wave files you'd like, or use different packages to have sounds added to it. So I gave my students these files, the crash, the alarm, and the flame waves, so that they could create the game that's described in Andy Harris's book. So now that we have imported these into our library, these sounds, and we've created our buttons, unfortunately I made this a movie clip instead of a button, so I'm going to need to, not that it makes that much difference, but I'll make it a button as we do that. So we have two buttons that you can click on, and then we have to write some code. You can this is just static text. You can put static text on it. We know how to do that. Oh, what happened? Alarm. Obviously, you want a different color then. And make sure that this is static text. And we just place that right there. And now we have a labeled button. This one says do not click this button. So let's take a look at what's going on with this ActionScript. So we had our first button that was created, this blue button, and we call that button crash. And we have an event listener, a mouse event. When we click it, we're going to have a function. We'll just call this function play crash sound. Right? So we just call it that. And this is an event. So we put all this in here. We have to create a variable called the crash sound, and that variable, the crash sound, is directed towards our wave file crash. All right, so it's our file crash, which happens to be from our library, and our variable that we created is this crash sound. So we have a variable which is a channel, so we named it channel, and it's a sound channel, and this is our crash sound wave being played. All right, so we took our wave file crash, and we called it the crash sound, and we're telling it to play, all right, when this variable channel happens. And this is an event that takes place when you click on this button. So let's go to control and test this movie. All right. So what I have here is I have clicked this button. The sound is playing. All right, so let's take a look what we have here. Get rid of this. Let's draw a new button. Alright, so let's make this a button or timeline. I'm going to go to modify, convert to symbol. I want it to be a button. I have set a registration point, and let's call it BTN alarm. No, we're not going to call it that. We'll call it alarm button. And then we're going to export it to ActionScript, alarm button. Alright, so it's a button. We gave it a name. We have it a ActionScript linkage, even though we don't really necessarily need that right now. We hit OK. Yes, OK. And now when we come over here, we're going to call this lowercase btn, capital ALARM, button alarm. Alright. Control, test movie, flash. Alright, so there's our button. There's our button. So let's take a look at what we're going to do here. So we have our button. Instead of a button crash, let's look at our button alarm. Alright, so we have a button alarm, and we're going to have it play the alarm sound, and then we're going to call it this. Variable. You can see there's a sound, so we have alarm sound is what we're calling it. So we're going to need to, when we play this variable alarm sound, we're going to be playing it. So we have our sound channel, which is a variable we're going to call channel. And instead of playing our crash wave, we're going to have it play the alarm wave. Alright, so we're going to call out the alarm wave. So now we have our alarm button, BTN alarm, and we're going to call it the play alarm sound function. When we run this play alarm sound function, when we have a click on our mouse event on the button, on the alarm button, then it's going to play this alarm wave, and we're going to tell it to play when we have this function run, which is a mouse event click. So let's go control, test movie in flash. Alright, so we get rid of that. So that's how we add a simple alarm. Now let's go on to the next part. So hopefully you can do this correctly. Next part, what we're going to need to do is you're going to need to draw a car. Alright, so you can draw it the best as you want. You could see that I got this car from Andy Harris's website, and it has a movie clip in there, and it just kind of rattles back and forth, and then you can see it has some exhaust that changes a little bit as it rattles back and forth. So you can see there's frame 1, and then frame 2 just moves the same thing a little bit to the left. This is frame 5, and you can see 5 goes back, and then it goes up a little bit on frame 7, and then frame 9 it goes back. Alright, so just a little movie clip. Obviously you just take some shapes, and you just kind of, if you remember from how we did drawing, we did like the tiger animation, the rest of it, you just kind of work with these shapes a little bit to give it some type of design to it. You can pick different colors. All right. So take your time and draw a car, and then once you've created that car, convert it to a movie clip, and you're going to give it the instant name of car, and then you can call it car 1. Right. I did the monster over here. You can go on this. It's the same thing for drawing the monster. I'm going to be working on just programming for the car right now. But there's a monster movie clip and the fire movie clip. Once again, you can go to Andy Harris's website and get these images, or you can also see on his website he has a tutorial, or in the book, Beginning Flash Game Programming for Dummies. He gives tutorials on how to draw this this Godzilla-like dragon, how to build these shapes. But this is something that you should already be familiar with if you watch the videos, right? How to pull this out. So now I got a tail, right? And you can round it. So now this is a body that's a little bit rounded, and then you can pinch these in different ways so that the tail looks right. Then you can move it around different ways to make this tail waggle. So you can see that here's the monster. You can see the tail and the head are put on there, and it swishes back and forth. He's got eyeballs. All right, so you can see what the different shapes are. So it's not really that complicated, but I think you should be able to draw these yourself. If you can't, then you can go to his website like I did. I've drawn these in the past, but for these particular ones, I just grabbed them from his website, and he had them already on his downloadable Flash files, and you just copy and paste them into this one. So once you get your car made, once you get your dragon made, once you get your fire flames made, these are all movie clips. So this one has the instance name of flame. This one has the instance name of monster. All right, I named the movie clip Big Monster. All right, I named the movie clip Fire, and the instant name Flame. And I have the movie clip as Car 1 with the instant name of Car. All right, so let's take a look at the action script that we have. All right, so we already know we've created cars in the past, and we already know that we have our car instant name. So we have to call out this movie clip by using this car, the X and Y position. And what we're doing here is we're actually putting these at random math locations. The X and Y is going to be a random number. So that is control, let's see, test movie. What that does is the car is going to appear in a different place. Control, every time we do this, it's going to start in a different place. And it's also going to get different speeds in different directions. So we have our variables north, and then we write that out northeast, east, southeast, south, southwest, west, northwest. We have these variables. North is going to be a number variable of 1. Northeast is going to be or 0. Northeast is going to be 1. East is going to be 2. Southeast is going to be 3. South is going to be 4. Southwest is going to be 5. West is going to be 6. And northwest is going to be the number 7. Right? So our car direction is also going to be a random number. All right? And this random number is going to be picked by being one of these numbers. All right? So we have a number that can be between 0 and 7. So we have our math floor. So random number is a number between 0 and 1, and math floor means it rounds it down, or we talked about this when we did the dice game, and times 8, so we have a number between 0 and 1 times 8, and then it's going to be rounded down. All right, and we have our numbers are 0 to 7 that are picked. So the car speed is also going to be a random number, and that's going to be times 10. So then we're going to get a speed between 1 and 10, just because it's a random number times 10. And it could be more precise. We don't have to round it. These are numbers, or it could be less precise. These numbers are whole numbers between 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So that's why we round it, because the numbers we'll get will be decimal points. And we want a number of either 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? So our numbers will be between 0 and 7, but they'll be whole numbers. Here with our speed, we have math random, so it'll be between 0. It won't be 0, it'll be higher than 0, but it'll be between 0 and 10, and then there'll be decimal points in there, and that just has different variables of car speed. So the car direction, the car placement, and the car speed are all randomly selected. So every time the car appears, it'll be a different place, going in a different direction with a different speed. All right. So the event we have is going to be just an enter frame event. So when the game starts on that frame, that's how it's going to set up our car moving and the direction the car is turning in. Right? So we've already done these car move and car turn when we did our physics game-based physics tutorials. And what we're doing here is we're going to name this movie clip. Here we say that we're using just the car for this move, but we're going to call it a thing. Again, this could be any name, but what we're doing is if we have a function, a move function, and we have a movie clip, the car movie clip, and then we give it a general name here, we can have multiple cars moving or objects moving with the same set of properties that we're going to define here, and they'll all be placed in a category of they're all things because they all use the move function. And we could do the same thing with the turn function also. So here we just have one car, so we just have one car with a move function and one car with a turn function. But I'm showing you this, that we can put in this, you can call it a sprite, you can call it a clip, a movie, you can call it anything you want. You define it here, just like when we defined our movie clip names. But we're going to define it as a thing, and we're going to say that this x and y point of the thing give a motion of dx and dy. All right, so we take whatever our x and y position is, and then we plus, and it becomes our dx and our dy, which is the actual moving position. All right, so we have our stage width, and we did this when we did Pong. So if it goes off one side of the stage, then it'll go back around to the other side of the stage. And we have our x positions, which are across. So if x is greater than the stage width, all right, so whatever we define our stage width is, as x gets greater, it goes all the way back to 0 and comes off on this side. And it's the same thing as our y direction. If our height is this number, whatever we set it as, if the car goes off this height, if your car's y position is greater than the stage height, then it'll appear all the way at the top. We did this in Pong. We did this when we learned how to do some game-based programming. And then we have our turn function. All right. So, and you remember all our trace functions. Our trace functions just tells us so that we could see our direction is 4 at this particular, when this ran. The rotation was 0. Our speed, you can see, was this number. It was very slow. And then our x position and our y position when it started was, all these were random numbers that were picked. And our dx and dy are undefined because it grows from as the game goes on, it grows. So we have our all our traces, so we can see how these numbers are selected randomly. All right, so our turn. All right, so we gave these variables numbers, and we're saying that it has a start dx of 0 and a start dy of -1, and then it increases as it goes from there. So we have our thing direction, we have case north variable. All right, so we have a switch for all of these, and this is the direction of our thing, and because we called it thing, it's actually a car, but it could be multiple movie clips. But this is just a car movie clip, and we could have put just car in here also and ran it that way. But you'll see as we add more cars, it's better that we don't have to write this over and over again, and we could put the cars into a category called things. So we have the car rotation is equal to car direction times 45. All right, and then we have a switch program, and what this does, it allows us to run one of these cases. Oops. It allows us to run one of these cases. All right, and then if none of these cases are running, then it'll trace we have a problem here, and that tells us that there's something wrong with our codes inside here, and we need to go back and check if that's typed out. None of this is typed out. It just says we have a problem here. So we have different dx's and different dy's, so different speeds, right? Different displacements of our x and y positions, and we have different directions. So north, northeast, east, southeast, and this also affects our rotation, which way the car is pointing, right? So we should start with the car pointing upwards, so that we can have this done correctly. Make sure that's in your movie clip, that it's drawn in that position. All right, so we write all these cases out, and it'll randomly select a number 0 to 7, and that'll be our variables. When that number gets picked up, it'll be our variables. So let's take a look. Oops, let's see if there's. So here's our cases, and then we have our trace. So our dx is our speed, all right, and our dy, displacement in the x position is our speed, and our displacement in the y position is equal to our speed. And then we trace all these things that all these variables that we've called out. So control, test movie, in Flash. So here's a car, and we have direction 4. All right, the speed is almost 10, so you see it's going faster than it was before. And our x and y positions where it started. So here's our speed. So let's do this. Control, test movie. All right, so now we have a speed of just 1.5, very slow. The direction is 1. So when we look over here at our directions, oops, direction of 1 is northeast. So you can see this is headed northeast. You can see the speed is very slow, and it's starting x position and y position. And every time we do this, so 4 is south, so we see this again. It's picking different speeds, it's picking different starting positions, and it's picking different directions. All right, so direction is 7. 7 is northwest. The speed here is only 1. So it's going to be between 0 and 10 is going to be our speeds that are selected. And our x and y position is going to be anywhere within our stage. So there you go. You got a car animation that moves around randomly. So that is the end of that. So now we need to do the monster move. All right, so here we have everything with our car. All right, we keep all this, but now we're using our keyboard events to control the monster. So we have left, right, up, down, and the space bar is going to be used right now. So we keep everything from our car direction, our variables, our car speeds, x, y positions. Now we're going to add our monster. dx and y is going to start at 0, so it's not moving initially, and it has a speed of 0 and a direction of 0. So direction 0 means it's facing just the way it's supposed to be facing. We're going to add our keyboard events to control this monster with keyboards, our arrow keyboards like we have in the past. Press down, press up, and then we have our check keys, and then we have our monster game function. Okay, so it's going to run our actual game program. So these stage event listeners are all keyboard events, and then the check keys is a enter frame event, and our game itself is going to be an enter frame event. So we've already done all this. Our press down. We already know that 37 is the left arrow on our keyboard. 39 it represents the right arrow. When it's pressed down, all these events are true, and when it's left or released in the up position, call it pressed up, then these are all false. Right, the same things for these. All right, so our function for our monster game event is we want to move the car and turn the car like we did previously. Now we want to be able to move a monster and turn the monster. All right, so check for keys. And this is how we move our monsters. We have our up arrow, down arrow, right arrow, and left arrow. And our monster speed increases from 0 when the up arrow is up. And if it gets greater than 8, so the greatest speed it can move is 8. It can't go up to 10 like a car can. It'll equal 8. So you can go from 0 that starts and keep your finger pressed, and it'll add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 8. And you could be minus the down arrow means you'll subtract from 8 all the way to -3. So you can't get any less than -3. So -3 is backwards, and it's slow. Obviously, it's only up to 3 backwards. As to this is 8 forwards. And then we have our direction, and our direction is going to go in a circle 360 degrees. Once it gets to 7, it's going to go back to 0. And if you go to the left, then it's going to go, if it gets less than 0, it goes back to 7. So 7 is 0 and 0 is 7. And this is going to be our rotation. So our move thing, right, if we look up here, our move thing contains the monster and the car now. All right, so we have a move for the car, and we have a move for the monster, and we have a turn for the car and a turn for the monster. Now we have different ways of doing this, but we're going to have the same move function for both the car and the monster because they're both things that we're using. So this was always the same. So our move was simply, if it goes off the stage to left or right, it appears on the other side so that it continues to wrap around. And our turn has a bunch of variables in it with a switch, right, for the thing direction. But we also had a rotation here for the keys, right, from 0 to 7. So our 0 to 7 refers to our variables north, northeast, east, southeast, south, southwest, and west. So our monster directions that we talked about here from 0 to 7 refer to our cases from north to south to east to west, the numbers 0 to 7 that apply there. So let's control test movie. All right, we see the car goes randomly like it appeared, but now when I press the up key, the monster moves forward and continues, even though I pressed it once. If I move it left, he rotates to that direction and continues on that. This is the same turn that the car is using. And then I can go backwards, and I can only go to 3 backwards. So if I go forwards, every time I push the key, I'm pushing it one at a time. It goes a little bit faster forwards. If I push the backwards key, it goes a little bit slower by 1 backwards. And then when I push the left arrow, it only doesn't do all the rotations of 360 degrees at 1 degree at a time. It goes, I push it once, so I'm going east. If I push it once, you'll notice it goes northeast. If I push it left one more time, then it goes north. So it only goes in these 8 quadrants, 0 through 7. It doesn't do smaller integers 360 degrees. So it only do every 45-degree turn. It doesn't do every degree. It's every 45 degrees when I click on that button. So now look at that. You got a car and a monster moving. All right, you made this flame animation, but we're not doing anything with it yet. All right, so let's go to adding 3 cars. All right, so 3 cars becomes even easier now that we have this. So I have I've changed the car names for this so that it would be easier. All right. All right, so the purple car is car A. And if you look in the library, I've created these cars and I use the names car 1, car 2, car 3. And I have 3 different colors on it. We can get rid of that. And I have a red car. Oops. All right, good. Come on. So I got a red car is car C. The green car is car B. And the purple car is car A. So those were the instant names I gave them. And then everything else is the same. So now that we have that figured out, that I have 3 cars, and I can put as many cars as I want. So now you'll see how easy it is to change your code. So all of this is the same. All of this we had typed using our Boolean variables for our variables left arrow, right arrow, up arrow, down, and then the space bar we'll use later. But we'll just write the code for it now to have it in there. We have our variables north to northwest. We have our monster dx, dy, our speed. And then we have a reset for car A, a reset for car B, and a reset for car C. All right, so this is new. All right, so we have 3 cars. We have a reset to place these cars in different positions when we'll see later as it comes in here. All right, so we have our check keys. This is the same. We have our enter frame event for the monster game. We have our functions for press key down and key pressed up. Those are the same as we had before. And now we have move. We have a car move, a car B move, a car C move, and we have a monster move, and we have a turn monster. And then we have this new function called the reset function. All right, reset a thing. So the direction, so we're resetting these cars so they're in different directions. All right, so the direction is random, right, between 1 and 8, or random times 8 to be 0 between, because it's floored. Math, rounded to the floor, rounded down. Random number will give us an answer between 0 and 7. And then we have our thing X and our thing Y. Our math is random to place it anywhere on the stage. And then our speed, math, random, times 10. And then this will come out to be a turn to turn our thing. All right, so we have this has taken the car and the monster and slightly separated the programming for them. So our monster goes straight to turn, but our cars are going through a reset. Car A, car B, and car C are going through the reset function, are running this reset function. And this reset function places all 3 cars and gives us this different direction here. So when we look at our check keys is the same. All right. When we look at our move, this is all the same. And we look at our turn, this is all the same. Everything's in here with the thing direction, Y, and the rest. All right. But what we have here that's different is the cars are being placed randomly to turn, random directions, and our monster is always appearing in the same place. So this was different. All of this move function and turn function, everything here is exactly the same. Our speed, our thing speed is all exactly the same. So control, test movie, and you can see all these cars, and then I can move the monster with my keypad events. All right. Now for this part, what we're going to do is we're going to take the flames and we're going to add them so that when we press on the space bar, they come out of the monster. So let's take a look at what we see here. This movie. So obviously the cars are still going in all the different directions. When we use our keypad arrows, we can move the monster around, the dragon. And when we press the space bar, you'll see the flame, I have the space bar pressed, will be at the position that the dragon is at, coming out of his mouth. And when I let go, it will go at a speed away from the dragon, and it'll be going away in the, and then when it goes off the screen, it disappears. So let's take a look at the code that I used to do this. So Windows, Actions. Alright, so first of all, we'll see I have our instant name of monster for the Godzilla-like dragon, and instant name of flame for the movie clip of the smoke clouds. And you'll see what we have here is we have obviously our keyboard events. Now here's where we already had this written in the spacebar boolean as false. Alright, so the variable for the spacebar was already entered, but now we'll actually be using it for the flame. So we've had all this was already in our code, and now we add the flame dx and dy is 0 at the start position, its speed is 0, and the direction is 0. That's why it simply sat right here on the stage. Now, if I take this and move it over here off the stage, then you won't see it when we start. So you won't know that there's a movie clip over here because it's not on the stage. It's not what we see. So this is the new code right here. We added this. Everything else is the same. All of this is the same. We have our function is the same. We have our space bar was already added. If we hadn't added it, we'd add it now. And that's key code 32 represents the space bar key. All right, so we have the key bar in there. All right, so what we have added here to our monster game function is we have the move flame is going to be entered in here. And all of this is the same. All right, our reset for the cars is all the same. All right, now our check keys we have to add for our spacebar check key. So after our left arrow, which we already had all this in, we're going to add a spacebar function. All right, so our variable spacebar, we have the monster flame X position and Y position will equal the monster's X position and Y position. So if we look at our monster, we have our registration point is going to be in the same position that the monster's in when we press the space bar down. All right. The direction is going to be the same as the monster direction, and the speed is going to be the same. This is why no matter what direction the monster is facing, the flame direction is equal to this monster direction. And then right here we're going to write that our flame is going to be one of the things in our turn function. All right, so the turn function is also going to encompass our flame. So this was all added to our new code. All right, so our move is all the same. All right. You could see that we didn't have a move for the flame up here. We had a different move flame function. All right, so this gives us the stage that when it goes off the stage, it appears on the other side. We don't want that with the flame. So what we want to happen when we get to the flame, all right? So we have, this is all new right here. So what we have here, all of this is new. This is our move flame function. We want our position, all right, when it goes off the stage, okay, or when it's less than 0, or greater than the stage width, or when it's less than 0 in the Y position or greater than the stage height, we want the flame to reappear at negative 200 position. That is off the stage. That's way up over here. So negative 200 in the X position is over here, and negative 200 in the Y position is way off the stage over here. And we want the speed to be 0. So once it goes over there, it'll stop. So when the flame goes off the stage, it'll reappear at the X and Y position, negative 200 coordinate, and then the speed's going to be 0. So let's test this movie again and take a look at it. And we'll see. Alright, so here is our dragon. Right? We don't see the flame because the flame is off to the side. Right? We don't see it. It's not on the stage. It's nowhere on the stage. So when I press the keyboard down, it appears at the same XY position, same direction, but a speed of 20 greater than whatever the dragon's at. Right? It's 20 greater. So even if the dragon's going -3, 20 greater would be a speed of 17. Right? So when it goes forward, if it's going the full 8, then the speed would be 28. And when pressing the space bar, when the dragon goes off when the flame goes off the screen, it appears somewhere over here, but we don't see it because that's not on the stage. While everything else is using that turn function, which makes it wrap around as we did using Pong, where it comes back into the stage. Alright, so that's all we have to do to add that to the flame. So that was pretty simple there. So now we're going to go to our collisions. So now we have our flame over here, we have our 3 cars, and let's take a look at how we change this. So all of this is the same, this is all the same. Alright, all this is the same, all the same. Alright, everything's the same. Alright, so now what we had, this is what's new. In our game function, our monster game function, we had a new function called check collisions. And remember, this is an enter frame event. So when we enter the frame, it'll run our monster game function, and the monster game function will run all the functions within it. So we have our check collisions. So let's see, this is all the same. Check keys is all the same. Our move is all the same. Our turn is all the same. Our move flame is the same. And now we have our check collisions. Alright, so, and then we have a reset for the flame that's been added here. So let's look at our check collisions. So we have our function we call check collisions, and we have our movie clip, which is monster. When it hit tests the object, which is car A, when that equals true, we'll trace this, and then we'll reset car A. So car A will be reset into a new position. So we'd already put this into our program up here, reset car A. So when we start the game, all the cars are set into their move position, into a random position, using the set function. All right, using our reset function, we run these functions and our cars are all set somewhere randomly on the stage, right? So here's our reset function. Now when we have our collision take place, it will run the reset function again. So if car A is hit by the monster, then it's reset. If the monster collides with car B, then the car B is reset into a new random position. If the monster with car C, also if the flame hits car A, car B, or car C, they're all reset in new positions. Right? And the flame is also reset. When the flame is reset, our new function, what that does is, before we had when the flame came off the screen, then it would go into our -200, -200. Now, through the collision, we have a reset for the flame function that'll run. When it runs into a car, the flame will stop somewhere at -200, -200. So let's take a look
Windows, Control Test Movie. All right, so we have the monster. Oh, you see we hit the red car, hit the purple car, and when we do the space bar, right, the car is reset and the flame is also reset. And when the flame goes off the screen, it's also reset. So we have these collisions taking place where when the monster hits the cars, we have a collision taking place, and the cars are reset to a random position, random speed, random direction. And also when the flames hit a car, the flames have a position at -200, -200, and the cars are reset at a random position, a random direction. All right. So now we're starting to get a game going on here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add our sounds to make the game more realistic. All right, so let's put this on here. Let's look at our timeline. We have sounds, window, actions. Well, so here we go. Everything's the same. All this is the same. What I did was in our library, I imported the alarm for the car alarm. I imported a flame sound. I imported a laser sound. I imported a crash sound. And I imported an alarm sound. So all these are in the library, and they all have the ActionScript linkage: alarm, crash, flame, sound, laser. All right, so I used obviously flame sound because I had a flame was used as an instant name for the flame, so the flame sound was put on there. So let's go back. All right, oops. All right, so all of this is the same. And obviously what we're going to have here is everything here is the same. We're going to run some functions through the collisions. So here we have, this is all the same, all right, our move flame and check collisions. So let's go all the way down to our check collisions. All right, so when we press the space bar, we're going to run a function called play flame sound. Right? So the function play flame sound is right here, and we name this whatever function we want to name it. We name the same function here to run it, and the flame sound variable will be our wave file flame sound, flame SND, will be played when we click the space bar. So we'll run the function when we click the space bar, and when we run the function, we will play a variable called flame sound, and this variable flame sound is our flame capital SND wave. So that happens when we press our space bar. Now the other one is our collisions. So all this is the same. All this is the same. And then we have our check collisions. So we have play crash sound when the monster runs into it. Play crash sound when the monster runs into it. When that function. And we run the play alarm sound function when the flame runs into the car. So we have two new functions: play crash sound, play alarm sound. And we'll have those defined down here. So play crash sound will play the wave crash, right? The crash sound variable. And play alarm sound function will play the alarm wave, which is alarm sound variable. Alright, so then we just added those in there, and then when we run them, test it. So I'm moving this guy around. It should crash when I run into the car. And right, so now we want to add points. So to add points, the word points is static. Word points is static. And I'm going to add lives on here too. So this is dynamic text, and I call this instant name monster, capital L for lives, monster lives. And I add dynamic text for this, 0, and that's monster, capital P for points. So all right. All right, so what we see here is this is all the same, all the same, all the same, all the same, all the same. We're going to have to go all the way down to our check collisions function, because this is where we're going to get points, and we're going to have to get lives. All right, it's all the same. All right, so monster, capital L-I-F-E, is our dynamic text for monster lives. All right, so and we have update text fields. So we have our monster life. We have our monster life. We have our update text fields. Something I add up here. All right, so we had our variables for monster life and monster score. They're number variables. For a score, we start at 0, and for our life, we start at 5. So this was new right at the beginning of our script. To start off with 5 and 0. So we define this variable as monster life, and we take away from 5 for every time the monster crashes into a car. We take away from 5. All right, now monster score, we add 0 or 100 every time the flame crashes into a car. So it collides the collision test with a car from the flame, and you add 100 points. Then you update the text fields every time that happens. All right, so the last one is our update text fields. All right, our update text fields function, which we're telling it to do, and that is monster points. Whatever that is, that variable monster points, that's our instant for our points, our instance name, and monster score So monster lives is the instant name for this number 5 in our dynamic text, and monster points is the instant name for our points, monster score. Instant name for the 0 right here for our points, and then our variable that we defined as a number variable is monster score. So string turns the number into text that can be displayed dynamically in our dynamic text box, monster points. And this number for monster life, this variable that we defined as a number, when you take away 1 every time you hit a car, is turned into text for our dynamic text box, monster lives, and then that is all that code you have to add there. So we define our variables, we add the addition of our variables and the update text fields to our collision tests, and then we tell our number score to be displayed as dynamic text in our dynamic text box. So let's control, test movie, and flash. And the car just ran into me and I lost a life. I missed that car. Let's see what happens. Now you see, I just keep losing lives. I didn't. Alright, so when I shoot a car, gain 100 points every time I crash into a car with my monster. Alright, so now that we have all that, all we have to do is complete our game. So, alright, we want to create two buttons. One, click to play. We're going to name that button BTN play, and button for instructions, and that'll go to our instructions so that people know how to play. And then we got a little movie clip here. You don't have to do that. And this is static text. So I did an intro screen, and then I named this frame intro for frame 1. And then let's look at the code I have here. So we have a stop. So when it comes to frame 1, it stops. And then we have a monster that's off the stage. I didn't show you this guy. Chasing the car in a car. And this is just going to go upwards. And then we're going to have our monsters wrap around the stage. But we have our two buttons. Our play button will go to play monster game function. And our instructions will be a button that goes to instruction frame. Alright, so our monster intro is just the animation of the car going up and down. Our two button functions are play monster game. When you click on the mouse on the button, then you're going to go to and stop on play. And then our function for instruction will go to the instruction frames. So that's all the code we have for this. Alright, so our game over would be a game over frame, and it has a little animation, and it tells you the number of points. So this part here just has a little animation for the dinosaur chasing around the cars. Enter frame, game over. Then we have a mouse click, which is if we want to play again, which is what the button is. We have a go to and stop at play. Alright, so our final points are our monster score from the previous ones. The number turned into a dynamic text box, which we've named the instant name of final points. Alright, so we've come in there and we run this function, game over, and it shows us the monster score in this dynamic text box called final points. Alright, so this is static text. This is static text. This is a button called BTN play again. This is the monster in the car, and these are just little animations there. This is the final points dynamic text, final points. Alright, so let's take a look here. Make sure you got it. This runs the animation. This says enter frame. You do the game over function, and this is the play again function. The play again function is for when we click on it. Oops. And the function game over just shows it just enter the as we enter the event, and then it tells the monster in the car to wrap around. So dxdy, and it displays our number monster score, which is a number variable, as a string, as a text in the dynamic text box. And then our instructions, same little car animation. We have rules of the chase, right? So that's all static text, and we have our begin game. So begin game is you click on the button, right? When you click on the button, you go to and stop play. And our rules of the game is just the monster. So all we have here is we have our button begins. This is a car and that's a monster, and they're just running an animation. And then all this is just static text. Right? This is just static text, and this is just static text. to give you what the instructions of the game are. So you just type this in. You can describe it any way you want. And then when you click on this button, you go to our play. All right. So we go to our go to play. All right. So this was go to play also. Play again. And this is the begin game function. And then when we have play, right, this is labeled play, this is labeled game over, this is labeled instructions, this is labeled intro. On the play, we have all of this, we've had all this code, so all this code pre-exists. Alright, this code pre-exists, this code pre-exists, all this pre-exists, our keyboard, our key pressed down, key pressed up, all our functions are the same for the monster game, our reset is the same, our check keys, all this is the same, play the flame sound, turn the flame, all the same, play the flame sound function, move function, all the same, all the same, the turn is all the same, all of this is the same. Now in our check collisions, this is where we have something different. So all of this is the same here, but what we have different is if our monster life, all right, so we have a variable, numeric variable monster life, and if it's equal to or less than 0, then we go to and stop at this game over frame. Because you lose a point. Remember, you lose a point every time you collide with a car with a monster. And if you get to 0 or below 0, then you go to the game over frame. It's added here. It's added with this car. It's added with this car. And that's it. That's all that's been changed. All of this is the same. You got your points going up there. All of this is the same. All of this is the same. Everything else is the same. So the only thing we changed in this text was the collisions between the monsters and the cars. When the monster life is equal to or less than 0, then you go to and stop at game over. And now you have a monster game.